Welcome to Book Buzz Reviews and Summaries. Book Review: The First 90 Days, Critical Success Strategies for New Leaders at All Levels by Michael Watkins. There are moments in life when the clock starts ticking the instant you step into a new role. Your heart is pounding, your mind is racing, and somewhere deep inside, the next few months will decide whether you soar or stumble. Michael Watkins, in The First 90 Days, doesn't just hand you a map for those critical moments. He gives you the compass, the route, and the fuel to keep going when the terrain gets rough. This book is not about theory for theory's sake. Watkins writes with the urgency of someone who has watched far too many talented people crash and burn in those first crucial days. He understands the unspoken truth. When you step into a new position, whether you're a CEO, a team leader, or a freshly promoted manager, you're being silently judged from day one. People are measuring your confidence, your clarity, your credibility. The decisions you make early on will echo long after those 90 days are over. Watkins calls this period the break-in zone for a reason. It's where you either establish your footing or find yourself in quicksand. And unlike many leadership books that speak in vague platitudes, he gives you a structured, actionable playbook to navigate the chaos. The beauty is that his advice applies across the board: private sector, public service, nonprofits. It's for anyone who steps into unfamiliar leadership terrain. The core premise is clear. Success or failure in leadership transitions is determined not just by your skills, but by how quickly you learn, adapt, and build alliances. Watkins lays out the STARS model, helping you diagnose the environment you've walked into, whether it's a startup, turnaround, accelerated growth, realignment, or sustaining success situation. This simple, elegant framework alone can save months of blind trial and error. What sets this book apart is the mindset shift it demands. Watkins forces you to stop seeing yourself as a passive arrival and instead view yourself as a strategic actor shaping the story. From day one, he challenges the illusion that you have plenty of time to settle in. You don't. In fact, he urges leaders to craft a learning plan before making their first move, to listen before they lead, and to secure early wins, not for the ego boost, but because early wins buy credibility, inspire trust, and build momentum. One of the most powerful ideas Watkins shares is the concept of negotiating success. Too many leaders assume they know what their boss wants, or they simply accept vague marching orders. Watkins flips that around. He shows you how to sit down with your stakeholders and co-create clear expectations, so you don't spend 90 days climbing the wrong mountain. The book also tackles an often overlooked truth. Leadership transitions are as much about relationships as they are about strategy. Watkins emphasizes building coalitions, not just within your direct team, but across the organization. Allies open doors, share insider knowledge, and become your champions. When resistance inevitably arises, the lonely leader who tries to prove themselves alone is usually the one who fails silently. And perhaps most importantly, Watkins acknowledges the psychological toll of a transition. You are juggling the pressure to perform with the need to learn, the urge to prove yourself with the wisdom to observe, the necessity of decisive action with the humility to adapt. His advice is both practical and deeply human, helping leaders manage not only the organizational landscape, but also their own mindset. By the end, the first 90 days leaves you with a sense of clarity and confidence. It's not about having all the answers from the start. It's about knowing which questions to ask, whom to ask them to, and how to act on what you learn. Watkins' work is a masterclass in purposeful transition, a toolkit that transforms anxiety into strategy and uncertainty into opportunity. This isn't just a book you read before a promotion or a job change. It's a career companion you'll revisit at every major turn, and when you close the last page, you won't just be thinking about your next 90 days. You'll be thinking about the leader you are becoming for the next 900. 3 key takeaways. 1. Diagnose before you decide. Use the STARS model to understand your environment before you act. Context shapes the strategy. 2. Build early wins. Momentum and credibility are forged through visible results in the first few months. 3. Negotiate success. Clarify expectations with key stakeholders early to align your efforts with the right goals. This book isn't just about surviving your first 90 days. It's about owning them And if you own them, you set the tone for everything that follows. Takeaway 1. Diagnose before you decide. Picture this. You've just been handed the keys to a brand new kingdom. The gates swing open, and you're stepping in with excitement buzzing through your veins. You're the new leader. Eyes are on you. Whispers are circling, and somewhere in the crowd, people are wondering, will this person change everything for the better or make a mess of what we've built? The temptation in that moment is intoxicating. You want to make a splash. You want to prove you were the right choice. You want your first moves to be remembered. But here's where most leaders trip and fall. They confuse action with impact. They rush forward, making bold changes before they've truly understood the battlefield they've stepped onto. Michael Watkins' first, and perhaps most crucial lesson in the first 90 days is this. Before you make a single major decision, diagnose the situation you're in. Think of it like a doctor facing a new patient. Would the doctor prescribe medicine without first running tests, asking questions, and understanding the symptoms? Of course not. And yet in leadership transitions, far too many prescribe without diagnosis. Watkins gives us the STARS model, 5 types of business situations you might inherit. 1. Startup. You're building from the ground up, establishing structure where none exists. 2. Turnaround. You're stepping into crisis mode, rescuing something that's in free fall. 3. Accelerated growth. You're expanding rapidly, and the challenge is scaling without breaking. 4. Realignment. Things look fine on the surface, but under the hood, the engine's losing steam. 5. Sustaining success. You're inheriting something already strong, where your job is to protect and refine rather than reinvent. Now, here's where the real magic of diagnosis comes in. Each of these scenarios demands a completely different approach. A turnaround requires fast, decisive action. You need to stop the bleeding. A sustaining success scenario punishes impulsiveness. Here, speed is the enemy. And trust is earned through careful listening. Misread the situation, and you're playing the wrong game entirely. Think about it like this. Walk into a startup with a sustaining success mindset, and you'll drown in chaos because you're too slow to act. Walk into a sustaining success with a turnaround mindset, and you'll alienate the very people whose trust you need because you're fixing things that aren't broken. Treat a realignment like accelerated growth, and you'll scale weaknesses instead of strengths, spreading problems faster. Diagnosis is not about delaying action. It's about ensuring every move you make is the right move for the environment you're in. It's like tuning your instrument before stepping on stage. The audience may be impatient for the show, but if you start playing out of tune, they won't stay to hear the second song. Watkins also points out that diagnosing means more than reading the numbers and the charts. It's about reading the culture. Who holds influence here? What unspoken rules govern how things get done? Where are the emotional hotspots, those issues that will trigger resistance if you touch them too soon? A true diagnosis maps both the formal and informal power structures, giving you a 360-degree view before you take your shot. And here's the captivating truth. When you truly diagnose the situation, people feel it. They notice you're not charging in with a one-size-fits-all plan from your last job. They see that you're listening, observing, and respecting the ground you've just walked onto. This builds credibility faster than any rousing speech or bold decree. People begin to lean toward you, offering information, sharing insights, and without you even asking, becoming your allies. The paradox is beautiful. The leaders who seem the most confident early on are often the ones who move the slowest in the first weeks. Not because they're timid, but because they're gathering ammunition. They're studying the map before they march. And when they do move, they strike with precision. So, when Watkins says diagnose before you decide, he's not urging caution for caution's sake. He's teaching you how to be dangerously accurate. It's about replacing blind momentum with deliberate mastery. Those first 90 days aren't a race. They're a chess match, and the leader who wins is the one who reads the whole board before making their first move. Because here's the ultimate truth. If you misdiagnose, you may never recover, but if you diagnose well, the rest of your 90 days, and the months and years beyond, become a masterclass in leadership that people will remember long after you've left your mark. Takeaway 2. Build early wins. Picture your first day in a new leadership role. The introductions are over, the office tour is done, and now you're sitting at your desk, somewhere in the building or across the organization. People are watching you. They're asking themselves the unspoken question: can this person deliver? You have only a short window to answer that question with a resounding yes. Michael Watkins calls this the power of early wins, those visible, tangible results you achieve within your first 90 days that prove you're not just another leader with a nice title, but a catalyst for progress. And make no mistake, these early wins are not just about bragging rights. They are about building momentum, earning credibility, and creating a ripple effect of confidence that will carry you far beyond those first 3 months. Why are early wins so critical? Because trust and perception form faster than facts. Your colleagues, your team, and your superiors will start forming lasting opinions about you almost immediately. If they see results early on, no matter how small, they begin to believe you're the right person for the job. But if all they see is talk, analysis, and delayed action, doubt creeps in, and doubt is a silent poison in leadership. Here's the catch: not all wins are created equal. An early win must be both visible and meaningful. A visible win shows the organization and your stakeholders that progress is being made. A meaningful win aligns with your larger strategic goals and solves a real problem. Do something purely symbolic, and it will be dismissed as fluff. Solve something irrelevant, and it will be forgotten. Watkins urges you to aim for wins that matter both practically and politically. The art of the early win lies in picking your battles. This means choosing targets where success is realistically achievable in a short period, and where that success will have ripple effects. Maybe it's streamlining a broken process that frustrates your team daily. Maybe it's restoring trust between two departments that have been at odds. Maybe it's landing a small but important client to show you can grow revenue. These wins work on multiple levels. They energize your team. People want to be part of a winning story. Even one small victory can boost morale and fuel collaboration. They build your political capital. When people see you deliver, they're more likely to back you on bigger, riskier moves later. They establish your narrative. Your early wins become the opening chapter of your leadership story, the proof that you can turn vision into reality. But Watkins also warns about the trap of overreaching. Chasing too big a win too soon can backfire if you fail. Instead, stack your wins like bricks, small, solid victories that create a strong foundation for the bolder moves to come. It's the difference between setting off a firework that fizzles and lighting a torch that burns steadily, guiding the way forward. The psychological impact of early wins is powerful. They shift the conversation from "will they succeed" to "what will they do next?" That shift changes how people interact with you. They start offering information, removing obstacles, and sharing in your momentum. You become the leader people want to help succeed because they've already seen you succeed. And perhaps most importantly, early wins are not just for others. They're for you. Those first victories give you the confidence, clarity, and energy to tackle bigger challenges. They're proof to yourself that you can navigate the unknown and make an impact, even in unfamiliar territory. Think of your first 90 days like lighting a campfire. Without that initial spark, the wood stays cold and dark. Your early wins are that spark. They ignite belief in your team, in your stakeholders, and in yourself. Once the fire catches, it becomes self-sustaining, and from there, you can build something truly lasting. In Watkins' world, early wins aren't about showing off. They're about showing up. They say, "I'm not here to blend in. I'm here to make things better." And here's the proof. And in the high-stakes game of leadership transitions, that proof is worth more than any promise you could ever make. Takeaway 3. Negotiate success. Imagine this. You've just stepped into your new role. You've met the team, shaken hands with department heads, and your boss has given you a warm welcome. The expectations seem clear, or so you think. You nod confidently, eager to get moving. Weeks later, you discover your boss had a very different picture of what success in your first few months should look like. The project you prioritized wasn't the one they cared about. The big win you thought would impress them barely made a blip on their radar. This is where many leaders stumble, not because they lack skill or drive, but because they're climbing the wrong mountain. Michael Watkins calls this out directly. Never assume you and your stakeholders are on the same page. Negotiate success from day one. Negotiating success is not about haggling for perks or defending your turf. It's about co-creating a clear, shared definition of what winning looks like in your first 90 days and beyond. Watkins likens it to building a bridge between you and your boss before you start crossing the river. Without that bridge, you risk wading into the current, only to find the other shore isn't where you thought it would be. Why is this so vital? Because leadership transitions happen in a fog of unspoken assumptions. Your boss may assume you already understand the priorities. You may assume their silence means agreement. Meanwhile, the clock is ticking, and your early moves are setting your reputation in stone. By the time the mismatch becomes obvious, it's often too late to recover without damage. Here's the power of negotiating success. You clarify priorities. You discover which results matter most in the short term and which can wait. You align expectations. You ensure your vision, your boss's vision, and the organization's needs are pointing in the same direction. You uncover hidden traps. Sometimes your boss knows of political sensitivities or landmines that aren't written in any manual. Watkins suggests making this a deliberate, structured conversation early on, ideally within your first 2 weeks. Ask questions like, what does success in my first 90 days look like to you? What would you consider a failure? Which stakeholder support is most critical right now? What decisions will you expect me to make versus the ones you want to be involved in? This conversation is not just informational, it's relational. It signals to your boss that you care about alignment, that you respect their vision, and that you're here to deliver results that matter to them, not just to you. But it doesn't stop with your boss. Negotiating success also means clarifying expectations with peers, direct reports, and key influencers. For instance, if your role overlaps with another leader's responsibilities, clarifying boundaries early prevents turf wars later. If your team is unsure how you define excellent work, they might spin their wheels trying to guess. Here's the beauty of this approach. When you negotiate success early, you're not only setting clear goals, you're also laying the groundwork for trust. You're showing that you value transparency over guesswork, partnership over assumption. That trust becomes your shield when the inevitable challenges arise. And here's the twist. Negotiating success is not a one-time event. Watkins encourages leaders to treat it as an ongoing calibration. Circumstances change, priorities shift, and what looked like the main prize in month 1 might become less important by month 3. Checking in regularly ensures you're still climbing the same mountain together. Think of it like setting coordinates on a GPS. If you start just 1 degree off course and never correct, you could end up miles from your intended destination. Negotiating success is the act of checking that you're heading in the right direction before you've traveled too far to turn back. At its core, this takeaway is about control, not in the sense of micromanaging, but in shaping your own narrative. When you fail to negotiate success, you leave your fate to someone else's unspoken expectations. When you do negotiate, you become an active architect of your path, ensuring that when you reach the top, it's the summit everyone wanted you to climb. In the fast-moving, high-pressure world of leadership transitions, there is no worse feeling than working hard on the wrong things. Watkins' advice here is both simple and profound. Don't just work hard, work aligned. Negotiate your success so that when your first 90 days are over, you and your stakeholders can look at each other, nod, and say, this is exactly where we wanted to be. Conclusion. The First 90 Days by Michael Watkins is not just a book. It's a survival guide, a playbook, and a confidence booster for anyone stepping into a new leadership role. It strips away the dangerous illusion that you have endless time to settle in, replacing it with a sharp, actionable strategy for making your first moves count. Watkins doesn't drown you in theory. He gives you the tools to read the terrain, earn trust, and create momentum before the window of opportunity closes. What makes this book so powerful is its combination of urgency and clarity. It recognizes that leadership transitions are high-stakes moments, where every decision either builds your credibility or chips away at it. Through principles like diagnosing your environment before acting, creating early wins to inspire confidence, and negotiating success to align expectations, Watkins equips you to turn uncertainty into direction and pressure into performance. If leadership is a journey, your first 90 days are the launchpad. Done right, they set your trajectory for years to come. Done poorly, They can leave you struggling to recover from a shaky start. Watkins hands you the map, the compass, and the wisdom to make sure your launch is strong, steady, and aimed squarely at success. This isn't just about surviving your first 90 days. It's about owning them, because in leadership, those who own the beginning often own the future. Read the book to learn more. Thanks for listening to Book Buzz reviews and summaries.